Assalamualaikum bachcho. Today we will be having a review session about the respiratory syncytial viruses. First of all, in your chat box, you have to answer, or I will ask you to unmute yourself if you are there. All right. Okay. Aisha, can you unmute yourself and tell me what are the basic respiratory enveloped viruses which we have discussed already? What are the important ones? Aisha, can you listen to me? All right, I think Aisha is not here. Okay, Ahmed, can you tell me? If people will not reply, you will not be marked present, I am telling you. Because I told you this is an interactive session. Naman, are you there? I think there is one person who is marking attendance for all of you. How is it possible? Anyone? What are the basic viruses which are involved in RNA enveloped group? But this is really, really bad response. I think people are not going through the virology up till now. And this is not a good sign. Because you know this, that your exams will be all of a sudden and you are unable to revise everything once you are in college. So we will be going through only the important one. Navish, you are right that rubella is one of them, mumps is one of them, Wajiha. Influenza, yes. Then measles, yes. All right. Yeah, all of these came under the heading that respiratory RNA enveloped viruses, which are involved in the group which is concise, which directly affects your or which you get through from the respiratory system. So they came from one person to another person. They get transmitted through the respiratory system. And today we are going to revise all of this because up till now we have. I just want to revise these because this is very important as far as your Viva is concerned. And then we will continue with the second part of it, that is comprising of hepatitis, HIV, corona, which are very, very emerging and important viruses these days. All right, the list of the viruses is influenza virus, parainfluenza viruses, syncytial virus, rubella, measles, mumps, and SARS coronavirus, and Coxsackie, and the other virus. But the most important one, as I told you before, is influenza, parainfluenza, and then rubella, measles, and mumps. That is your MMR, that is measles, mumps, rubella. They're very, very important, and corona as well. So these were some differences between these viruses and their presence of rash in it, or the giant cell formed, or the type of vaccines in it, and the immunoglobulins used. Measles were for the first one, which was very important, and it is basically characterized by maculopapular rash, and this maculopapular rash, it occurs primarily in the childhood, and it's basically an RNA genome and nucleocapsid is present in the mesovirus, and it's a typical picture of paramyxoviruses, and it has a single serotype, and both hemagglutinin as well as self-fusing or hemolytic activities are done by this virus. Where replication is as simple as that there is a hemagglutinin protein part and then there is a fusion protein part. And all these get infused after the attachment of the virus to the surface of the cell in the host cell. And their disassembly occurs first, and then the replication occurs, and then the maturation is there. So the each progeny get matured, and then they are budding out through the surface of the cell, host cell surface. How is it transmitted? Through the respiratory droplets, and it is produced by coughing and sneezing, and both during the prodromal period and for a few days after the rash appears in the body. Measles occurs worldwide, and usually outbreaks occur every 2 to 3 years. And when the number of susceptible children are really high, the attack rate is one of the highest of the viral diseases. Most children contract the clinical disease on exposure. Well, it's very was there was an inhabitant and a vying island, so there was epidemic was there. Then the malnourished kids are the one who are more suffering from this disease as compared to the well-nourished children. And vitamin A deficiency is very highlighted during the measles. So that's why whenever you are treating a person symptomatically or a patient kid with the measles, you are supposed to give vitamin A in a good mature amount. What is pathogenesis? Basically, it's the upper respiratory tract infection which is occurring first, and then the blood, the virus get into the blood, and then into the retroventricular system, and from where they spread it to the blood, the other part of the body like skin, where the rash is formed. It is primarily by the cytotoxic T cell attacking the measles virus, and that typical picture is highlighted, and this is due to vasculitis. Shortly after the rash appeared, the virus shortly after the rash appeared, is basically the virus is basically no longer to be recovered, and the patient can no longer have the virus and is unable to spread to the other person. Multinuclear giant cells are present if we go for the biopsy of that particular area. Lifelong immunity is there. Once you are having the disease, very less likely you have another chance to get the disease again, and that is because of IgG antibody which is made in your body. And transiently depressed cell-mediated immunity. And it might, if you have suspicion for any person having TB, and but the tuberculin test is not getting reactive, so you have to ask in the history whether he or she is having measles before or not, because that is one reason of false negative PPT test. Then the proposed mechanism for that purpose is that CD4, T6 cells are basically highlighted, and they are the receptors for the measles virus. Clinical periods, clinical findings. I told you that there is a prodromal period in which fever, conjunctivitis, photophobia, runny nose, and coughing, all these things will occur. Then typical period will be having the rash and the complex spots which are present in the center. There is a central dot, and surrounding there is a buccal mucosa is present in the buccal mucosa. These complex spots are present. Then after a few days, maculopapular rash is a particular picture of this, and this occurs from face to the body and in the soles, palm and soles especially. If you see this picture, this is the typical picture of measles. Complications are two, three, four complications which are very important. One of is encephalitis, the other one is deafness or permanent mental retardation, then pneumonia or secondary bacterial pneumonia, and then subacute serosal panencephalitis is also a very rare but a very fatal and critical condition of central nervous system infection in the measles. So we have to keep in mind all these type of complications. Then now we diagnose, you can diagnose it by cell culture, but it's only for the research purposes, as I told you before. In here, in our environment, the whole viral diseases are diagnosed on the basis of clinical history and clinical examination. There's no treatment for measles. The prevention is a live attenuated vaccine, which usually comes in a group of vaccine that is MMR, that is for measles, mumps, and rubella, and it's usually given prior to the 15 month of age. It should not be given to the kids before prior to the 15 months of age, and it's usually given after that, and a booster dose on school going age. Next is mumps. Mumps is a very important virus, and it's usually characterized by the infection or inflammation of the parotid gland. But that doesn't mean it only infects the parotid gland. It also affects your testes or ovaries or pancreas, and some cases meninges. So all these, the virus can be spread through the blood to all these kind of glands. The most commonly occurring is parotid gland. That's why the kids appear with the swelling in the jaws. That means that like he's eating or he's hiding something in your mouth. So that's why then it's really bilateral. And this is the parotid gland most commonly found. But it's not that this is, it is not like this that this is only occurring in the parotid gland, but it can occur, or in fact, the testes, ovaries, and pancreas, as well as meninges in some cases. The virus may ascend from the buccal mucosa and block the parotid duct. Immunity is lifelong, as I told you before, and subsequently, the cases of parotiditis can caused by other viruses as well, like parainfluenza viruses, by the bacteria or by the stones formed in the duct of parotid gland. Then maternal antibodies can pass through the placenta, and it provides protection for at least 6 months to the new life. Then incubation period is 18 to 21 days, like other viruses. And at the prodromal stage, you will have fever, malaise, anorexia, unable to eat anything, unable to swallow. And there is characteristic increase in the parotid pain when the drinking citrus juices. Now, this is a particular symptom, test to see whether the parotid glands are involved or not. If you give anything citrus to the kid or the patient, he will be having a characteristic pain on citrus juices, swallowing the citric juice. While if he's drinking simple water or simple sweet juices, it will not be there. Then headache, malaise, low-grade fever, as I told you, and swelling of the lower part of the ear is the common symptom. Orchitis and meningitis are the two major complications which you should know. Orchitis is basically post-infused pubertal males, and if the bilateral is there, then sterility might be there. So you have to rule out in the history if he's having mumps or a worse form of mumps during his childhood, and you should know if it is unilateral, might be painful, but there's no sterility for that. Yes. Then meningitis might be there, but meningitis is usually self-limiting and without any sequelae. Measles, mumps, Coxsackie virus, and echoviruses are the three most frequently causing asymptomatic or aseptic meningitis. Now, you should know if anyone asks you what are the three aseptic meningitis reasons for the viral meningitis. And you should know mumps is on top of the list, then Coxsackie virus, and then echoviruses. So you should know this. Diagnosis is same as I told you before. Then a certain mumps skin test is there which you can do due to the hypersensitivity reaction. And then the prevention. And the most important part of these viral infection is the basic prevention by the vaccines. And through the APA program, you are planned to vaccinate your kids before 5 years. And then this is also a live attenuated vaccine, which is given for the months. And it is effective and long lasting at least for 10 years. And after that, you might be having a lifelong immunity. And then and after a boost dose, as I told you, when the kids are appearing in the school for the first time, so they are exposing themselves to the huge number of kids. So that's why you have to prevent them. So we give a booster dose at the age of 4 to 6 years on entering school. Then the rubella, which is very important and very interesting as well. Rubella means it's a Latin word for the red, a little red. That is the Latin meaning of this. This is a Latin word and it means little red. And it's called as German measles or 3 days measles because it recovers very quickly unless if it is causing any complication. What is congenital malformation or rubella syndrome, which we will discuss later. Then replication is as other RNA viruses. Then lifelong immunity we discussed. And then the second cases of rubella do not occur. Similar rash occurs by the other viruses like Coxsackie virus or echoviruses. And there is a milder form of disease than the measles. And it occurs in 2 to 3 days. It recovers itself unless it is getting complicated. And the typical picture is that it causes teratogenic abilities in the mothers who are pregnant or who had the infection before and then they get pregnant. So congenital rubella syndrome is a very, very important term as far as your rubella is concerned because in Viva they usually ask what is congenital rubella syndrome and what are the typical features of it. So you should know that there's a triad of congenital rubella syndrome that includes your heart, that is patent ductus arteriosus, your eyes, that is cataract, and the brain, which results in the deafness and the mental retardation. So some children infected in the utero can continue to secrete rubella even after months following their birth, and which is sufficient significant public health hazard because the virus can be transmitted to the pregnant women again, to other pregnant women in the same hospital setup. Some congenital children are asymptomatic and without malformations, and hence can be diagnosed only if the virus is isolated. And congenitally infected infants also have significant IgM titers and persistent IgG titers long after the maternal antibodies are disappearing. This is a classical triad, as I told you, cataract, cardiac abnormalities like patent ductus arteriosus, and the meningitis or the deafness. And the Then what are the common symptoms of rubella? There's rash, a red rash, cough, mild fever, muscle pains, and headache, red eyes, runny nose. These all can be the symptoms for the presentation of rubella, or it might be one of the most important ones. Then how you diagnose? It can be diagnosed on the basis of cytopathic effects, but this is not a common practice. We usually go for antibodies and antigen titer or the ELISA for the rubella, and this is done in the patients, especially the pregnant women, in order to stop the teratogenic effects. And in the at the end of second month or at the end of 7 to 8 weeks of pregnancy, usually we went for a anomaly scan for all the pregnant females so that we can rule out if there is any kind of teratogenic effect of any disease which the patient might don't know before. So we rule out any kind of abnormal growth or abnormal teratogenic effects of the rubella in the patients, all pregnant women. So we screen all the pregnant women for the through the ultrasound and for the teratogenic effects. In IgM, antibody indicates a recent infection, whereas 1 to ratio 8 are the greater titer of the IgG. And immunosynthesis is also very important as far as the fetal infection is needed to be indicated. There is no therapy for this viral as well, infection as well. The only prevention is live attenuated vaccine, which is given usually after 15 months of the age, and it should not be given to the immunocompromised patients because it's a live attenuated vaccine. I have told you in every lecture of mine that live attenuated means that the virus or the bacteria is still present, is alive in the vaccine, but the only its disease causing part is removed or destroyed. So you are unable to do any kind of infection while these viruses are present. They will do what? They will just give an antigenic effect to your body so that your body can produce the antibodies against it. Because immunocompromised patients are unable to answer these, unable to go for the immunity, good immunity and antibody production. That's why they are more related to inform on the infection. How to protect with the pregnant women? That is also I told you before that you will go for serological tests, and if there is a proof of immunization, you don't need it. This is the EPI program, international EPI program chart, but this is not in Pakistan because many things which is not available in the on the government setup. But yes, as a private patient, you can go for the vaccination of certain things like hepatitis B and rota and pneumococcal infections, all these. This is for the Pakistani, typical Pakistani pattern, and here we give all of them. And this one here, the measles, mumps, rubella, that is MMR, that is given on our government setup as well. This is all for the today, but you people have to interact. I don't know why you are not asking anything. This make us worried if you are not asking anything, because either you have not read anything, which are more possible, and either you don't. You have read everything, so you are mashallah qualified in virology. You don't want need to ask any questions. If you people want to ask any question, you can ask me now. Who was raising hand in between? He or she can unmute himself or herself and you can ask the question. Ishmael, if you want to ask anything, or any one of you, this is very unfortunate that we are not having a good interactive section while your session is here. But you have to take care of your future and your prof exam. So please do ask questions. If you are not having anything in your mind right now, you can text in our WhatsApp group and inshallah we will reply. Regarding the handouts, we will be in next week, inshallah, we will update the handouts of all the practicals we have done up to now. And then you have to write all of them so that in your Eid break, you will finish your practical notebooks. And while you are coming back, your practical notebook should be complete and it needed to be checked only because you know there are specific marks of your practical notebook in your viva of the prof as well as your this one stand-ups are concerned. Okay, thank you. Our lectures are uploaded by the staff, so if you want anything you can see and repeat again and again, and that's all. And if you have any questions, please do reply. I don't know why you people are not serious about it. If your teacher is asking something, you have to reply about it. Okay, thank you.